Hey movers, it's Bree here for a 20-minute mat workout for you to follow along with when you have an extra 20 minutes to set aside for yourself, your body, and your day. So we'll begin in a seated position facing towards the front of your mat there with your hands starting behind your legs. Try to lift your spine up tall on your inhale. And then as you exhale, you'll start to roll your spine back and lengthen the arms. We want to try to feel that stretch between the shoulder blades. Inhale, lift yourself up. Try not to use your arms during this at all. Like they're kind of just like hooks for you to measure where the limit is when we're rolling ourselves back. And then when we come up. So we'll go for about 8 of these, 4 more. 3. Trying to find that strength in the front and length in the back. 2. Now hold your C curve on the next and last one, reaching those arms forward and starting to scissor arm kick those arms up and down without letting your body sort of wobble back and forth to side. 5 more. 4, 3, 2, and then last one, each side. Arms forward. Finish your descent down onto your mat. Scoot your feet closer towards you. Hands rest into the mat there. And we want to have the heels as close to the bum as feels comfortable for you. Rolling up into our bridge on your exhale. Roll and scoop the pelvis. The low back follows, the middle back, and the upper back until finally you're at the top of your bridge. Now while you're here, we can just hold this bridge and we don't feel like anything's going to cramp, like everything's just working together. But we need to make sure that our ribs aren't like trying to pop or flare up. Instead, take a big exhale and try to pull the ribs together. Another exhale to try to scoop your tailbone and curl your tailbone up towards the ceiling. So everything will get that more engaged position through the glutes and then the hamstrings as well as the core. So now from here, with the exhale, roll yourself back down, pulling the tailbone towards the heels. Inhale, prepare, and then the exhale, work your way back up again. Now while you're doing these bridges, check in with the feet and making sure that they're not turning out or turning in, but that they're staying in a parallel foot position. Okay, try to spread your toes as far and as wide as you can get them, creating as much surface area for you to press into as possible. So 5 more of these, 8 total. Really letting gravity help to pull that pelvic floor up when you're at that top of the bridge. And then just as a reminder, try to keep it lifted on your way back down. Curl, tilt, roll. Inhale, hold. Roll, tilt, back down. 2 more. Into this glute engagement, this extension of the spine, just helping to mobilize through the hips and the back. 1 more, final one. And then you will lower back down. Arms float up as the hips reach back to the mat. And now exhale, curl yourself up into a chest lifted position. And in this position, if you need to bring your hands or one of them behind your head to support, we're just gonna try to look at what's happening maybe at the abdominals real quick. So if you are feeling yourself sort of like dome or push up into the belly or your waistband, lower your head back down. What I want you to try to feel is that when you breathe in, like a big balloon is trying to inflate into your belly. So it looks like that. And then as you exhale, try to like saran wrap around that balloon. Not that you're trying to deflate it, but that engagement will then feel like just stronger. Like when I was pushing out to demonstrate that sort of unsupported position with the core, it actually hurt, like to the point where like it didn't feel very stable. It felt like I should have lowered back down anyways. You'll start to get a feel for it as you move through these mat classes. But now holding yourself lifted, remember one hand or both hands behind the head if you need to, otherwise down by your hips. Now watch the hips here as one leg floats on your exhale to tabletop and then inhales back down. Lower inhale, exhale, float. What we're watching for in the hips is that you're not really shifting or rolling from side to side. So So what you may need to feel is that you have to anchor down the opposite leg, but then also feel like the other, like the sides of your back are also anchored as well. Feel like your heart is trying to pull up towards the ceiling or over the knees. One more on the right, and then one more on the left. Roll yourself back down, maybe give yourself a little windshield wiper side to side. All right, then your hands will interlace, come behind the head. And as you exhale up, think of the ribs pulling together and towards the hips. So that helps the core activate throughout the entirety, deep and superficial muscles working here. So now, each time you inhale, you'll lower your head down, and as you exhale, we're actually going to lift one leg up. You might hear it in my voice, but already like that tremor of truth is starting. Exhale, lift, inhale, lower. You want to be very slow and controlled through these movements so that we can notice if there is a shift, because they can be very subtle. If we're going through it like fast and uncontrolled, then what starts to happen is you just start to think like, oh yeah, I'm doing it right, just because my leg is lifting and my upper body is coming towards it. Not always. 2 more. Okay, then last one, hold the right leg lifted. And now as you inhale down, just the upper body comes back to the mat. And then exhale, rotate up and over. And I know it looks like elbow to me, but what I'm thinking of is rib to hip. So my left rib cage is really trying to pull down and towards that right hip. But meanwhile, the back of my left rib cage is trying to stay planted onto the mat. I know it's a lot to think about, but honestly, that's kind of why I enjoy Pilates, is because there's so much to think about. You literally can't think about anything else. So like maybe the grocery list that's running through your head, or things that you forgot to do yesterday that are now on your list for today, there's no way that you can get to it. Lower down the leg and now lift up left side, rotate now the right rib cage towards the left hip. Whew. Shaky quirky. And so that line of energy as the rib pulls towards the hip is utilizing those external obliques on the right side. Those help you to turn towards the opposite leg or the opposite side of your body. And the internal obliques on that left side help to pull you in that direction. We want to make sure that you're not yanking on the back of the head there with the hands. Instead, actually pull the head back into the hands. Ooh, 2 more. And last one. Then lower everything down, maybe even stretch the arms and the legs out and up. And then bend the knees back to your knee bent position. Arms towards the ceiling. Feel like there's like energy shooting out through the fingertips there. Drawing the energy of the ribs towards the hips, navel towards the spine. Not that you're like trying to suck in. So we don't want to think about like sucking in that way, but rather the energy is just drawing towards the midline of the body, not towards the spine even, but like the very middle of the body. The spine is more towards the back. So if you could even think about the back and the front pulling towards each other, the sides and the sides pulling towards each other, the bottom and the top of your torso pulling towards each other. So we've got this huge ball of energy just ready to go and is ready to spring us into action. So now the arms, like you're pushing against an invisible wall, is going to go down as you lift your head, neck, and shoulders into that chest lifted position. One leg, then both legs lift to tabletop. Then can you try a straight leg position? From here, just start to rotate an external rotation, then back to neutral. External, back to neutral. Remember, if you need to, you can place one or both hands behind the head, but literally like you're rotating a light bulb into the socket of the hip there. Last 3. Just getting those hips warmed up for what we have. 2. and then 1. So now heels together, like really squeeze them together. Push the ceiling away from you and feel like your tailbone is trying to get trying to sink down towards the mat. Curl yourself up, ribs to hips. Then from there, lower the legs just to a point right before your low back starts to arch away from the mat, and then come back up. So we don't want that arch to happen. Instead, we will right before it happens, and then lift. Right at that lower abdominal, then lift. So those hip points are really trying to pull together, reaching the chest towards the ceiling. Gaze is like right over where those toes are lifting up. 3 more. 2. And last 1. Hug those knees into the chest. Give yourself a little rock and roll, massage out that spine. Now with those knees hugged in towards the chest, we work towards rolling like a ball. So with your hands either behind or in front of, just whatever position feels comfortable for you to make sure that you're not going to like let the legs kick away from you. Instead, we curl them in as closely towards the body as you can. Curl yourself up into a ball position. And so this is, if you do, let me just make like a little side note right here. If you have like one of those flatter sort of yoga mats that you're rolling on, just skip this step and come up into a seated position. We're gonna stay onto our side next. Otherwise, if you do have a cushier mat or one that gives you a little bit more support, like this top of my reformer does, then keep going, okay? So curl yourself up into a ball. You're gonna start to rock back and forth. When we inhale to go back, exhale, pull forward. Inhale back, exhale forward. Try that 3 more times. 2. And then when you come up to a seated position, turn to your left into a mermaid sit. From there, we're gonna reach the arms out to the side and try to keep your right hip anchored into the mat. It's okay if it's lifted, but there's energy there to sink it down. And now, of course, if you don't have that sort of hip mobility, sitting on a yoga block under your left hip might be more accessible for you. So arms out to the side, place the left hand down, reach the right arm up. Oh, get that stretch through the right side body. Lift, inhale, and then go to the other side. Inhale to exhale. We'll do 3 or 6 total. Last 1 and 1. But now when your left arm comes down, your right arm reaches up. We're gonna thread the needle as you exhale, rotate and reach that right arm underneath of you, getting into that thoracic twist. Maybe, just got a little spine adjustment. As you're rotating, that's not the goal though, not to get a little pop, but as you're rotating, exhale, imagine wringing out a wet towel. And that is your spine. So you don't want to like lean into it or squish your belly onto your thigh, but rather think of like a carousel rotating around a pole, and that is the midline of your body. Nice. Last and final 1. So 4 total. Still warming up those hips. You're now going to place the right hand next to the left hand and make sure that they're shoulder distance apart onto the mat here. Flex through your back right foot and start to rotate it up and down. Working through internal rotation, try to keep those shoulders squared up with your mat. 5 more. 4, really driving that knee into the mat. 3, 2, hold it lifted, last 1. So now try not to touch the mat with your foot as you lower down onto your left forearm. Your right hand can stay where it is, but now kick back and then tap the knee onto the mat again. As you're here, try to lift away that left rib cage away from the mat. 5, 4, 3, 2, and then hold the leg long. Last 1, lower and lift that leg up and down. Should be feeling a strong butt burn there on that right cheek. Lifting and lowering for 3 more, 2, then 1. Hold it lifted. And now remember those little light bulbs rotating into the hip joint. Now we're working through that internal rotation, really turning those toes down. Don't touch the mat though. And then got to make sure that those hips aren't like rolling back and forth, just from the hip joint itself. 2, then 1. Okay, let's lower that leg down. Reach the other right arm up overhead and just take that full stretch from toes to fingertips. You can even rotate a little bit more towards your mat. Oh, yes. Okay. Then you'll come up into that mermaid seated position. Try using no hands and breakdance move around to the other side. So your legs will swing around and we start from the top. So in that mermaid seated position, remember, left hip anchored or getting towards or closer towards the ground. Arms out to the side, inhale, lift. Try to pull those ribs back towards the midline of the body. And then as the right hand goes down, your left arm exhales up. Inhale, reach out to the side. Exhale, oh yes, to the other side. 2. And 2. Last one. Then right hand, left hand, come down. Oh, get into that twist. So now from there, inhale, reach the left arm 4 times to thread the needle underneath and back behind. Whew. Keep going for 3. Keeping that right arm long. It's like you're trying to push the mat away from you as you're rotating. 2. And final. Oh yeah, 1. All right, now both hands stay anchored towards the mat. Get yourself ready and positioned to drive that left knee into the mat as you lift your left foot off of the mat. Lower, lift, lower, lift. Even as you're doing these simple ranges of motion through the hips are just super important for us to make sure that like the right amount of blood flow is coming in. The amount of mobility that we move our hips through is super important for longevity as well as quality of life. 2 more. Last one, lower down onto your right elbow. I'm just gonna scooch my right hip away from me, or my right leg away from me just a little bit. And then from there, karate kick out, tap the knee back down. Kick and pull. Now make sure right rib cage is pulling up away from the mat, so you're not sinking into your shoulder here, but rather pulling up out of it. 3, 2, hold it long, last one, lower, lift. As that leg is lifting and lowering though, we're trying to make sure that those hips don't like move back and forth. That's not where the movement is coming from. Instead, it's coming right from the glutes there to lift and lower that leg up and down. 4, 3, 2, hold it lifted. Now turn. Okay, this side is much harder for me. So that tells me I gotta practice some more. 6, 5, 4, rib cage lift. 3, 2, and 1. Go ahead and bring that leg, reach the leg and the arm away from each other. Just get into that good release. Okay, and then from here, you don't have to use your hands if you need to. They'll sort of like come back behind you or in front of you. I'll show you behind you first, so you'll push yourself off of your hands, and then there you are, no hands, and then come back down. If you need to use your hands, they'll stay out in front of you the entire time as you move your body forward and back, or no hands, lift up, lower down, lift and lower. So 4 more. 3, keeping that tailbone scooped underneath of you. 2, hold yourself lifted on the next one. Final one, rotate the legs around and repeat that 8 more times on the other side. Again, just really good mobility for the hips. If this bothers you, putting pads underneath of the knees, or, we're about to come into what's called a thigh stretch. You can alternate for that. 3, 2, and 1. So now slide the legs together. I'm going to turn from the side so you can see what's going on here. So with the tailbone scooped underneath, like get that length through the low back. We want to make sure that we're not just like tucking ourselves into this position, but you're trying to find that even Goldilocks position of length in the back, strength in the front, And the cue I like to use is like if you're wearing a belt buckle, shine it forward, hip points forward, arms forward. You can have thumbs up or palms down, whichever feels comfortable, and really press your shins and tops of your feet into the earth. As you inhale, lean back into your thigh stretch, and then exhale, push through the shins and back up. Inhale and exhale. So strong connection through the core and the glutes, as well as those thighs. Feel like your arms are pressing down into like quicksand, or you're trying to push through quicksand with your arms and it's not moving. Last two. Yeah, we're up on time. Last and final one. Okay, work through a couple of cat and cows just to articulate through the spine. As you inhale, start to scoop the tailbone, and then exhale, scoop the tailbone. Do that one more time, kind of freestyling it, and then exhaling. Oh yeah, in the opposite direction. All right, you guys, that winds up our 20 minutes of moving together. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Just a chance for you to move through the body and really get some of the juices flowing. So if you enjoyed this, please like and comment below. Let me know what you liked about it or what you want more of. And I look forward to moving with you again soon. Bye.